Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new, and we have a very massive book haul. I have, I think, close to 20 books to talk about. I won't be going through synopses for all of these books because some of them are new releases that are super popular that like everyone has been talking about, but I thought it'd be fun to go through all of the books that I've hauled recently. Literally in the past like month to 2 months. I think most of these I hauled in October, so my wallet is crying and I need to read these. And then I do also have a package for one of my most anticipated books of the year that I still haven't read yet. So we will be able to open this up together. I hope that you're excited, friends. If you are, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's talk about some books. Just FYI, this is the stack that I am pulling from, and I basically had to clean off my TBR cart because that was their home previously, and now she's looking pretty sparse. I also get so excited when I'm able to like read a book and then finally move it from my TBR cart to my shelves. It's so satisfying. So that's my motivation for reading all of these. Let's start by opening this beauty. I bought this from Book Outlet. They were having a Black Friday sale where all of their books were so discounted, and these are like hardcover books. I got this book for literally $11 including shipping. Now, Book Outlet doesn't have like, they basically sell discounted books because they're kind of like usually damaged. So I ended up getting Day of Fallen Night. I have been waiting for this paperback to come out because I have Priory of the Orange Tree in paperback, but I just couldn't wait any longer. It comes out like next year, next like February or something like that, and I just didn't want to wait. So I got Day of Fallen Night. It is the hardcover. I'm planning on annotating this. I'm so excited. Priory of the Orange Tree is one of my favorite fantasy books of all time, and it has amazing dragons. So this is the prequel book. You don't necessarily have to read one to read the other. They're both standalone, and I highly recommend reading Priory of the Orange Tree. It changed my life. But I will say this dust jacket is quite damaged. It's ripped when I took it out of the box, and then they usually have like dots somewhere on the book, so this one does have a dot on the bottom. This is unfortunate. I've never really gotten one that's like that ripped, and it's kind of wrinkled, but that's okay. And I will buy the paperback when it comes out as well. So Day of Fallen Night is the first book that I've hauled. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for this. I'm gonna go through the other like really popular books that are out to start, and then we'll get into some of the other ones that I've gotten. So obviously I had to run to Target to get Iron Flame as soon as it came out. I still haven't read this yet. I found that I was getting really anxious with how hyped it was, and everyone was like freaking out, and there's a bunch of like mixed opinions and all of these things. So I think I'm gonna save this to read for December. I think that will be a good time for me because then the hype will die down a little bit. I am planning on doing a dedicated reading vlog solely for Iron Flame because that's what I did for Fourth Wing, and I absolutely was freaking out, losing my mind, screaming in my car reading. So I will link that vlog down below. I'm gonna do something similar for Iron Flame because let's be real, these are super hyped books and they do deserve their own vlog. That's all there is to it. Next up is my baby. I have A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I read this already. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I love this trilogy so much. Jax and Evangeline are one of my favorite couples of all time. I will link the reading vlog where I read this book down below. I also reread Ballad of Never After, and it's a no spoiler vlog as well. So if you haven't read the series, if you haven't read this book yet, there are no spoilers in that vlog, and it's just me freaking out about how stinking cute they are. They're cute, but they're heartbreaking. I'm trying to pause my book buying because, as you can tell with all of the books that I'm talking about, I've bought a lot recently, but I do want to get the Barnes & Noble edition of A Curse for True Love. I think I might get that this weekend because my other books from this series, Once Upon a Broken Heart and Ballad of Never After, are both the Barnes & Noble special editions, and this one I just got from Amazon, so that will be like my final book that I haul in the next month. And then last one of the super popular books that have been releasing and coming out in October and November, I have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I did read this already as well. This is the second book in a duology called the Shepherd King duology. The first book is One Dark Window. I love this duology so stinking much. It is, how do you even describe this book? The magic in this book is very like naturalistic. It's very dark, cursed forest. I love the world in these books. Highly recommend. The romance in the first book had me in a chokehold, and it still has me in a chokehold to this day. I will still call Raven one of my absolute top book boyfriends of the year. I love him so much. And in this one we do follow kind of a different romance from the first book. So it was very interesting. If you haven't picked up One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns yet, I do recommend you do so. And I read this in the same reading vlog as First for True Love, so that will be linked down below. Next book that I've hauled recently, Song of the Marked by S.M. Gaither. I have been reading the series in like multiple vlogs recently, and if you watch them, you know that I have been screaming about this series at the top of my lungs. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it, although it's not a new release, like it's been out for a little while, so maybe that's why. But Song of the Marked is a story about a mercenary named Cassia Greythorn. She's morally gray but leaning on the moral side. Her one goal is to continue doing jobs that will pay a lot of money to take care of her kind of foster mom slash mentor, because her mentor is really sick. There's an illness going around in this world that marks people, and not a lot of people survive this disease. The king offers her this job. It pays a lot of money. She is very money motivated, so she takes it. She ends up having to work with Captain Alander, who is an arrogant, mysterious right hand to that king. He also has some magic that the girlies on BookTok tend to love. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say, because no spoilers. They investigate the origins of this strange illness, this strange plague that's been ravaging their empire. They're trying to find a cure and then call it a day, because they don't want to talk to each other anymore. But in a land brimming with old magic and meddling gods, nothing is ever that simple, and nothing is ever as it seems. So it has to do with old gods, it has to do with really interesting magic. I do like the magic that's in this world, and it's a lot of adventure. So if you like a lot of adventure, a lot of action, and you like a new adult spicy romance that has gorgeous, stunning, beautiful moments, you should pick this up. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, and it's a 5-book series that is completed. My next book that I need to read is book 4. I'm hoping to finish the series before the end of the year. But can we also talk about, I got this edition from Amazon, and it is the hardcover edition. This is the actual book. Compared to the dust jacket, this is gorgeous and stunning. I was shocked. I didn't know that the hardcover was gonna look like this when I ordered it. Next up is another book that you can find on Kindle Unlimited, but I loved the first book so much, which was Frost. This is the second and final book in the Frost and Nectar series. If you like a very light-hearted fantasy romance, it is a fae fantasy romance as well. It's a very light-hearted, funny writing style. Like, you're there for a silly, goofy time, but don't take that as no stakes. This has very high stakes. It's a deadly competition. We have a fae prince who is trying to find his bride, and the brides have to compete in this deadly dating game. It's actually hysterical. It's like The Bachelor, but make it deadly fae competition with magic, and they will kill each other. And it's fantastic. I'm actually gonna skip back to, I think this is another very popular release that has come out recently, The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzin. This is a Southeast Asia inspired fantasy about a world ravaged by storms, and we have a female protagonist who has light magic. She has to hide it because it's kind of forbidden. She's like the last one that has light magic. She has found her family among soldiers who fight for freedom against kind of a tyrant king. And then enter Prince Alaric. He's the Emperor's only son, so Emperor, not King. Emperor's only son and heir, and he has been tasked with obliterating any threats to the Night Empire's rule with the strength of his armies and his mighty shadow magic. It's light against shadow. He discovers the greatest threat yet in Taliesin, a girl burning brightly with the magic that killed his grandfather, turned his father into a monster, and ignited the Hurricane Wars. I cannot sink and wait to get to this one. I'm currently filming this video in November, and this is on my November TBR. I have been dying to get to it. This was our November book pick for the Who Did This To You book club, which is the book club that I run on Fable, linked in the description box below if you would like to join us. Blood and Steel by Helen Scher. I've talked about this book a million times on my channel at this point, so I won't get too deep into it, but this also has shadow magic in it. There's a theme here, people. It's the first book in the Legends of Thesmar. I read Slaying the Shadow Prince. Absolutely loved it. That is a standalone fantasy romance that's like almost an introduction to this world. It takes place in the same world as this series. With her death foretold, Althea Zoltaire has only 3 years to become what she's always dreamed of being, a warrior legend. But women are forbidden to wield blades, so she is trained in secret her entire life, and now she is racing against the clock. She fights to secure her place in the elite guild charged with the protection of 5 kingdoms. The sparring and hazing of new trainees border on deadly, but even more dangerous is her growing attraction to Wilder Hawthorne, her unwilling warrior chaperone. I want this book to have training and sparring scenes like Fourth Wing had. That is what I need, want, thrive on in my life, are sparring scenes between our female and male protagonists. Please and thank you. There is also the "Who did this to you" line. Next we have Dawn of Onyx. This one's actually quite popular, I think, as well. It's written by Kate Golden. I know that my friend Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy read this and absolutely loved it and wants more people to scream about it, so I am here hopefully to read it very soon and also scream about it. It has to do with like darkness magic as well, like I said, on theme. Not all of these books have darkness magic, I'm just saying. There's a lot of them that do. We have our main character, Arwen Valendale, and she never expected to be the brave one, offering her life in substitute for her brothers, but she's been taken prisoner by the most dangerous kingdom on the continent and made to use her rare magical abilities to heal the soldiers of the vicious Onyx King. She's surrounded by an ancient wicked woods. This sounds right up my alley. And she knows better than to venture into it, but that means working with a fellow prisoner might be her only path to freedom. But unfortunately, he's as infuriating as he is cunning, and he seems to take twisted pleasure in playing on Arwen's deepest fears. She has to make it out of this enemy territory. She has to navigate backstabbing royals, dark magic, and deadly beasts. Say less. This book caught my attention as soon as I read the synopsis for it, and that is Bonesmith. Can I talk? That is Bonesmith by Nikki Pao Preto. This is a new, I think it's a YA fantasy series. All I needed to know was that it was giving Game of Thrones, and I said, here, take my money. In the Dominions, the dead linger, violent and unpredictable, unless a bonesmith severs the ghosts from their earthly remains. How creepy does that sound? For Bonesmith Wren, becoming a Valkyr, a ghost-fighting warrior, is a chance to solidify her place in the noble house of Bone and impress her frequently absent father. But when sabotage causes Wren to fail her qualifying trial, she is banished to the border wall, or the last line of defense against a wasteland called the Breach, where the vicious dead roam unchecked. She has to have like a begrudging allyship, and I think that there is some romance in here as well, and her begrudging ally have to work together to basically survive being banished to where they are and fight these undead creepy things. I don't know why, but really dark fantasies call to me in the winter, so this is another one. I think I'm gonna end up reading this in December. So amongst my lighthearted holiday rom-coms that I'm gonna be reading, I will also be reading this. Next is a book that I also don't think needs a lot of introduction, but I desperately need to read it because it's on one of my reading challenges for 2023, and we're in the last 2 months of the year. So this is another book I'm planning on getting to in November. It is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This will be the first book that I've ever read by Brandon Sanderson. I've heard that this is a good place to start for his Cosmere, and I can't wait to get into his writing. So many people have told me they're obsessed with this book. I don't think I've heard a bad thing about this book. I think it's a multi-POV and it follows characters that just sound so interesting to me. I'm very, very excited to start meeting characters of Brandon Sanderson's. I do have the audiobook on hold actually on Libby, and I'm going to do an immersive reading experience for this one. I think it's going to be amazing. Next up, so I fell in love with Ava Reid when I read A Study in Drowning by her that released recently. So I wanted to pick up more books by her, and I know that Juniper and Thorn, it had its moment and then it kind of faded away, but I feel like I heard good things about this book. This is a book about a gruesome curse, a city in upheaval, a monster with unquenchable appetites. There's two sisters that live with their wizard father in a city shifting from magic to industry. As Oblaya's last true witches, she and her sisters are little more than a tourist attraction as they treat their clients with archaic remedies and beguile them with nostalgic charm. Marlinshin spends her days divining secrets in exchange for rubles and trying to placate her tyrannical, xenophobic father who keeps his daughters sequestered from the outside world. But at night, Marlinshin and her sisters sneak out to enjoy the city's amenities and revel in its thrills, particularly the recently established ballet theater where Marlinshin meets a dancer who quickly captures her heart. Her late-night trysts grow more fervent and frequent, and so does her father's rage and magic. While Oblaya flourishes with culture and bustles with enterprise, a monster lurks in the mist, born of intolerance and resentment and suffused with old world power. Caught between history and progress, blood and desire, Marlinshin must draw upon her own magic to keep her city safe and find her place within it. It sounds very unique. I don't think I've ever read a book with a synopsis quite like that. I'm very interested interested in this magic system, and I hope that it has wonderful, beautiful characters. At least I know from A Study in Drowning, she's not afraid to give her characters kind of a darker backstory, and so I'm curious to see what lengths our main character's father will go to control her. Next up we have Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. It's a planned trilogy for fans of The Witcher and Gideon the Ninth. I love The Witcher. That's really all I needed to hear. It's about a girl who lost her entire family to a fire god, and now she makes a living killing them and really enjoys it. But all of this changes when our main character is tasked with helping a young noble girl with a god problem. The child's soul is bonded to a tiny god of white lies, and Kissin can't kill it without ending the girl's life too. We love a scenario where it changes life perspective. Can't wait. Next, let me talk about T. Kingfisher, because I recently read Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Absolutely loved it. That wasn't my first book by them. I did also read her Poe retelling book that I can't think of the name of right now. I will put it somewhere on screen. I love her writing so much. I really, really do. So I ended up picking up Swordheart and Paladin's Grace. These are both series of hers, I think. I know Paladin's Grace is a series. I can't remember if Swordheart is also a series, but I believe it is. Swordheart, all I know about this book is that the sword is enchanted and it has a person inside of it. So the sword is a main character, and I've heard it's absolutely hysterical. And then to piggyback off of that, sorry about the glare, we have Paladin's Grace. I have heard the same feedback about this series as well. People laugh out loud. It's so funny, silly, goofy. But this, I believe, has more like adventure in it. It's kind of like they go on journeys and adventures. So this one, Stefan, I like Stefan better because of Vampire Diaries. Stefan's god died on the longest day of the year. 3 years later, Stefan is a broken paladin, living only for the chance to be useful before he dies. But all that changes when he encounters a fugitive named Grace in an alley and witnesses an assassination attempt gone wrong. Now the pair must navigate a web of treachery, beset on all sides by spies and poisoners, while a cryptic killer stalks one step behind. It's a saga of murder, magic, and love on the far side of despair. T. Kingfisher writes so many different genres, and Thornhedge was my first novella of hers that was her like fantasy genre that she writes, and these are both fantasy, so I knew I needed to explore more of her fantasy selection. Oh my goodness, we are down to our last 3 books. So first up is Foundry Side. This is by Robert Jackson Bennett. This I'm nervous for because I am not a sci-fi girly. It really scares me and hurts my brain sometimes when I read it, but this is kind of a mix of fantasy, sci-fi. It's not too heavily one or the other. It's a nice mix in between, so I thought it might be a good starting point. I would try to summarize this in my own words, but I don't think that I could. So I am gonna read a little bit of the back. Sancia Grotto is a thief, and a damn good one, and her latest heist on Tavan's docks is nothing her unique abilities can't handle. But unbeknownst to her, Sancia has been sent to steal an artifact of unimaginable power, an object that could revolutionize the magical technology known as scriving. If the ruthless merchant houses who control this magic, the art of using coded commands to imbue everyday objects with sentience, now someone in those houses wants Sancia dead, and the artifact for themselves. To have a chance at surviving and at stopping the deadly transformation underway, Sancia will have to marshal unlikely allies to undergo her own transformation, one that will turn her into something that she could have never imagined. I think this is a trilogy, and I just love a thief. Like, give me a thief, a mercenary, and assassin main character, and I'm pretty much along for the ride. That's also kind of a theme in some of the books that I've picked up and hauled recently. Okay, and last 2, I have another book by Trisha Levenseller. I have been loving Trisha this year. I read Daughter of the Pirate King, and I also read The Shadows Between Us. So we have The Warrior of the Wild. This book came out kind of a while ago in like 2020, but I just want to start reading more of her backlist. It is also about killing gods. I didn't know that that was such a theme until I started talking about these books. Honestly, I'm just here for it apparently. Resmira has trained her entire life to become a warrior and lead her village. But when her coming of age trial is sabotaged and she fails the test, her father banishes her to a monster-filled wilderness. With an impossible quest to win back her honor, she must kill the oppressive god who claims tribute from the villages each year or die trying. This actually really reminds me of Forrest Grimm. and the Bonesmith. Like, tell me that doesn't sound kind of similar, except she's killing a god and she's killing the undead. So it also kind of sounds like God Killer. This is quickly becoming, and if you like this, read this type of video, but here we are. Okie dokie. And then my last book that I'm going to talk to you about that I've hauled recently, actually my friend Bailey sent me all 3 of these for hitting 4K subscribers. So thank you so much, Bailey. Anytime any of y'all send me books as gifts, I always put your little notes in the book so that I remember who sent it to me, and it just means so stinking much. So thank you so much, Bailey. I didn't say that yet, but she sent me The Burning Sky as well by Sherry Thomas. This book is old. I think this came out in like 2013, but when I read the synopsis, I had to pick it up because I'm a sucker for elemental magic. I loved Air Awakens. I think that was my first book where I really started to get into elemental magic. Iolanthe Seaborn, she is the greatest elemental mage of her generation, or so she's been told. It's her duty to face and defeat the Bane, the most powerful tyrant and mage the world has ever known. But this would be a suicide task for anyone, let alone a reluctant 16-year-old with no training. Guided by his mother's visions and committed to avenging his family, Prince Titus has sworn to protect Iolanthe even as he prepares her for their battle with the Bane, but he makes the terrifying mistake of falling in love with the girl who should have been only a means to an end. Yes, this is a trilogy, elemental magic. It is a YA fantasy romance. Sometimes the writing style from 2013, it just doesn't like age well, but I think the premise is quite interesting. So The Burning Sky. And those are all of the books that I've hauled recently, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. If you've read any of these and loved any of these, please let me know in the comments down below. I will see you in my next one, and I will catch you in the comments. Bye!